Hello and welcome to the Art of Value Whispering podcast. I'm your host, Melitta Campbell, business coach, value whisperer, and advocate for introverted female experts who want to grow a business that feels aligned, meaningful, and impactful. Each week, I explore what it really takes to create a quietly impactful business, one that thrives through meaningful marketing, value-driven sales, and self-leadership. So if you are ready to attract your dream clients, sell with confidence, and create lasting success on your own terms, you're in the right place. Now, next Tuesday, I'm hosting a brand new masterclass on how introverts can sell more without having to be loud or pushy. Because if you are like most of the entrepreneurs I speak with, you probably feel that you're no good at sales, or perhaps you think you're too nice or not slick enough, or you just don't have that magic sales gene. However, I know that with the right mindset, tools, and framework, you can be a rock star at sales. I've seen even my shyest client start to enjoy her sales conversations and start converting more clients than ever before without having to change who she is or feel icky in the process. And I know that if you're listening to this show, you want to help more people. And selling the right way for your personality is the way you're going to be able to do that. So in this masterclass, I'm excited to help you start turning things around and becoming more confident about your sales conversations than ever before. You'll find all the details and you can reserve your spot at melittacampbell.com/sales-masterclass. And in fact, you can start your sales transformation right here today, as I have a special sales spotlight episode for you. It builds on the insights that I shared here on the podcast last week and further sets the scene for more confident sales conversations. What is a spotlight episode, you may be asking? Well, it's a special throwback episode that features clips from some of the previous sales experts I've interviewed on the show, each of whom shared incredible sales wisdom that challenges the notion that you have to be loud and aggressive to sell successfully. Now, this is the first time I've done an episode like this, so it's a bit of an experiment. I'm quite happy with the results, but I would love to know what you think. Drop me a note and let me know if you find this format interesting and valuable. And if you do, then I'll look at doing more spotlight episodes in the future. You can let me know by dropping me a message on LinkedIn. I'm there at Melitta with 2 T's, or dropping me an email, or by joining the discussion in the free Dream Clients Club. You'll find all those links in the show notes if you need them. My first clip is from an interview I had with the incredible Lisa McLeod, author of Selling with Noble Purpose. In last week's episode, I talked about how introverts are naturally great at sales, but don't always know it. And in this clip from episode 51, Lisa explains why women are great at sales, but don't always realize this. And in under 3 minutes, she is not only going to have you thinking differently about your sales skills, but she's going to prove that you already have some kick-ass sales skills.
Having said that, women have a huge advantage when they start their own business. And it's actually twofold. One, women think more holistically and they think about how one thing impacts the other. So you can see the big picture better. And the other thing that you have, which is probably why a lot of your listeners started your business, is you can see what's underneath what people are saying. And so many women businesses, including mine, were started not just because there was a need in the market that was going underserved, but because there was an inarticulated need that the women, through their intuition, could see underneath what customers were saying and identify, what they really need is this. And so women stereotypically and traditionally, and in my experience, factually, have a big advantage in that way. And so you really want to lean into that. And so many women think they're not good at sales, and they're actually great at it for that very reason I just said. Because you understand the unspoken needs, you want to help people, you understand what's going on underneath the conversation. And there are a group of people that aren't good at it, that shouldn't be doing it. But yet in sales, The people who actually are not good at it, and I'll tell you about the research, the people who are not good at it are the pushy, aggressive, all about me people. That's who we think of when we think of salespeople. But our data tells us, in a study of over 100 companies, our data tells us that salespeople who have what we call noble purpose, who truly want to make a difference to their customers, who improve life for customers, actually sell bigger deals, they sell higher margin deals, and they hold on to their customers longer. And so I think why women have such a negative perception of sales is we have had salespeople that aren't very good at their job call on us, and we don't want to be like them. And so the good news is, if that was your experience, you should know that those people that act like that are in the bottom 50% of performers consistently.
This next clip takes Lisa's message that you already have badass sales skills to the next level. This is taken from my conversation in episode 162 with Michelle Rockwood, author of The Art of Joyful Sales. She touched on something that I feel is really important about sales but often missed, and that's that the central goal of your sales conversation is not to make a sale, but to understand someone's problem well enough to make the right sale, or possibly no sale. You can't be sure of the best solution to offer someone until you understand their truth, and they can't make a confident decision without knowing this either. The best part is that Michelle will explain how helping your prospect to uncover the truth behind their needs leans into your pre-existing feminine energy. And to the men listening, we all have feminine energy that we can tap into to create sales that feel good so we can do more good.
So if you think about when your intention as to how you approach any conversation is really important. So if you approach the sales conversation with a curiosity, and the goal of a sales conversation and a feminine energy is really to seek out the truth. And oftentimes the prospect doesn't know what the truth is. They don't know what they need support around, what they're struggling, what their dreams are. It's tapped in the recesses of their brain. And when you enter into a sales conversation looking forward to revealing what their desires are, what their dreams are, what their struggles are, not just surface level, what they give you, but really deeper, you do an incredible service for them, and you find out what it is that they really desire, and that may or may not be you. And when you figure that out, most often the answer is you, and you can really help them see why. But if it's not, also you can suggest someone else or gently release them into the universe. And that feels amazing every time as well. And we're training our brain here. And if it doesn't feel good every time, we're not going to do it. And we're not going to show up in a way. Zig Ziglar says sales is a transfer of energy. And that's so true. The words you say don't matter as much as how you feel on that call and the energy you're transferring to the other human being. So when you can really tap into that and really care, then magic happens on that sales call. Tears happen, transformation, and hot damn, the person's like, oh my gosh, I had no idea I wanted to start my own business or leave my spouse or stay with my spouse, right? I had no idea that came out of my mouth. And now you're, instead of fixing their problem, you're demonstrating the type of coach you are. And that is so, so, so attractive. And it really feels good. You may have heard people say sales is service. And what does that mean? This is what it means. When you serve the heck out of somebody and you help them make a decision, yes or no, this way or that, it's an incredible service. And that is our job as sales coaches, as coaches, helping somebody to step into our program or someone else's that we're selling.
Michelle's point about helping our clients to find their truth weaves so nicely in with the message that Anthony Steers, the telephone assassin, shared in episode 210. One of the first big sales lessons that I learned was that you can't sell to someone without their permission. That means that you first have to understand that someone has a problem you can solve, to really know that, and only then invite them to learn more about your offer. If you don't do this, then that's being spammy. And before you can understand someone's problem enough to invite them to your solution, you first need permission to speak. And in this episode, Anthony shared a complete strategy for selling through one conversation at a time. And we join him as he explains the importance of gaining the permission to speak and where to focus to hold a valuable sales conversation. And if you listen to his full episode, you'll also find out what a pizza menu has to do with sales.
If you are responsible for sales for your business and you find within 30 to 90 seconds, the first thing people say is, could you just email me? You probably aren't doing your permission to speak properly, would be my guess. Because fundamentally, you need people to like you. And that's kind of what one of the first of the three phases of the conversation is all around rapport. If people like you, they'll listen. If they don't, they won't, unfortunately. Statistics show we all love to buy. Every buyer is different, and the stats say that now people have made 80% of their buying decisions before they've even reached out to a big company to find out more about that product. So rather than the old-fashioned way of selling, so back in the 90s and what have you, the salesperson would withhold information and drip feed it out to the prospect in front of them. They would then release the information to them. Whereas now in this digital world, people have done their research, and your job is usually to help them overcome a bit of overwhelm. Usually they've gathered so much information, some of it's relevant, some of it's not. And that's why I often say it becomes more about helping people to buy rather than trying to sell to them. Because usually people, particularly in a buying situation, people have two main questions, which are how much is it and how quickly can I have it? Because time and money are the things we tend to value most. And you do need to be able to answer those questions. But in order to become that kind of trusted advisor and help them to buy, what you really want to do is answer those questions and then tell them about the other 2 or 3 really important questions they should be asking if they are going to buy this product or service, regardless of from you or somebody else. Because as you start to teach them the right questions to ask and why, and explain why that's important to them, you then start to earn the right to make a recommendation. Okay, and that's what great salespeople do, is they position themselves as the person who can help demystify all of this information that they've been sent, has enough technical knowledge to explain and understand and match the problem to the solution, okay, or help you match the right product for you and for your budget. And really, like I say, salespeople now are more customer service representatives who are there to help customers to buy rather than talking them into buying. It doesn't tend to happen anymore. My mission is to get everybody talking again and stop posting and hiding behind social media and websites and trying to tell everybody you're living the Instagram life. Just pick up the phone and have some conversations with people. It will enrich your day. And what I often say is that there's actually opportunity in nearly every conversation that we have.
When it comes to our sales conversations, it can be tricky to determine just how much time you should talk and how much time you should ask questions and how to structure each conversation. But thankfully, Liz Dederer has worked it out for you. In episode 72, she explained how sales is all about service and walked us through the importance of not just having the right words, but believing in them. And she shared her formula for perfect sales calls, which is where we join her now.
I think there's a couple ways to look at it. One is what we've been talking about, to acknowledge that there's nothing wrong with us. And then there's two sides of the coin after that kind of big monkey is removed. One is you've got to have the tactics, like the tactical, actual, practical, what are the words that you say? And then the second side of the coin is you need to believe them. And that's an inside job. And that's the result of, it's kind of inside out and backwards, I'm sorry, but it's, you kind of have to do it to collect the new evidence so that you can believe it. You know, the clarity comes from conversation, confusion comes from thought. So we can sit and think ourselves into, but I feel better, and affirmations, and those aren't wrong things to do. You can just get yourself further faster by having conversations with other people. So it's really a function of those tactics of what do you say? How do you start creating new evidence for yourself? And I'll give a real simple formula so that, you know, the core, everything that I've created in selling the service, everything that I built in the sales school for entrepreneurs has really been built because I had to protect myself from myself. When I was transitioning from web design into marketing, business, coachy kind of stuff, I didn't know what I was for a while. All of a sudden I went from having like a thing that I was selling with a hard price tag. I had, my team that I had to pay, et cetera. And then like retail markup, like it was math. Now I'm putting a number on myself and my services and my own conversations. Like, no, it was a learning curve, like for sure. So I had to build tools to protect myself from giving it all away so I could actually start earning money. And a quick little formula that I've kind of distilled all of this down to of how to have a air quote perfect sales conversation. Most people think of a sales conversation like 50-50, 60-40, who's talking, who's listening. Mine's a 3-part equation because I think there's a big thing that's missing there. So it's 80, 15, and 5. 80% of any conversation is the other person talking, AKA you listening. That's where the gold comes from. 15% of the conversation this is what's missing from the other formulas. 15% of the conversation is where you're asking questions, period. If Alex Trebek wouldn't allow it on Jeopardy, it does not leave your mouth. It has to be a question. There's exceptions to that, like help me understand that better. Tell me more about that. That's really interesting. Keep talking. Or can you say that differently? Sentence expanders, right? To keep them talking. Those are technically not questions, but it fills that 15%. And then only 5% of any conversation is where I say permission to speak freely is granted. Only 5% of any sales conversation is where you can speak in full sentences. And I break that down even a little bit further into a little bit of introduction and a little bit of invitation towards the end. Everything else is asking a question. That's how you protect yourself from giving it away. And that's how you hold the bar at a higher level to really make sure that, it's a solid conversation and a right fit alignment for both parties.
My final clip comes from episode 175, where I spoke to Natalie Carthew and we explored what happens after a sales conversation. How do we follow up without bothering people and continuing to be of service and continuing to grow our understanding of our clients' needs and our business at the same time? She shared how there are many ways that we can follow up with people in a way that's really valuable, whether they say yes or no to working with us. And when we create an intentional sales process and assess the success of every touch point we have, she explained how we can change our sales outcomes and start working with more of our dream clients without putting in lots of extra time or hustling harder. This next clip is taken from part of the conversation we had about the role of follow-up in your sales process.
I've worked with a lot of people who, when the sale's done and they've delivered it, that's the end of it. And for me, I don't believe that is the sales process. I see it as a continual loop that never ends, because once somebody's bought from you, they may never buy again, but they're really valuable to you in your network because they will potentially be your sales army. They are going to be the people that go on to promote you and share with other people that they come across and that they perhaps can't help, but no, you can. So I think for me, it's that fear of saying, no, I'm not the right fit. That's one of the things, because you've got to reframe that and see the benefits that can bring. Because the more people that think like that, the more opportunity there is for business to come to you via those routes as well, if you are building relationships with the right people. And ultimately, we've all had, I'm going to say, nightmare clients. We've all worked with a nightmare person. And it probably comes back to being afraid to say, this isn't right for you because you want the sale. I heard a statistic the other day that people need like 27 touch points, which has gone up massively since the last time I'd heard it. I think it was about 15 before that. But if that is the case, in my buyer's journey, what are all those touch points? And I have them mapped out. And that's what I do with my clients, and everybody can do it for themselves. Just go back to the last couple of people that you've met and you've gone through your buyer's journey to them signing up to work with you, or perhaps not signing up to you as well. I think it's just as important to look at the journey that your prospect takes, whether they buy from you or not. because then you've got a comparison of what was working and perhaps wasn't working quite so well. And where did it fall down? When did they make the decision actually that they weren't going to go through with working with you? What was that point? And also the other thing on the other side of that is when people get a no, do you go back and ask for feedback? What was it?
Scary.
It does. But do you know what? Everybody's just human. And I think about ourselves, put yourself in this position. What would you like if you decided, so we were going to work together later and you said, actually, Nat, at the moment, it's not the right thing for me. I'd be like, yeah, sure, no worries. Or you might say, actually, I've chosen to work with somebody else. That's quite a brave thing to share with somebody. But it's as much about being a seller as it is a buyer. And I think you have to look at your own behaviors as a buyer of what you like, because that is probably the style that you like to sell in.
I hope you have found this episode insightful and that you've started to see sales from several new angles and are ready to see your ability to sell in a new light too. And remember, if you have found this episode interesting, or if you haven't, then do come and let me know so I can decide whether to do more episodes like this in the future. And also remember, sales doesn't have to be loud or pushy to work. In fact, quite the opposite, as Lisa has proven to us. And if you are ready to take your sales game to the next level, then I'd love for you to come and join us at the Sales Masterclass next week, when I'll be showing you the gentler way to sell that gets results. You can learn more and register for your free seat at melittacampbell.com/sales-masterclass. I look forward to seeing you then. And of course, I'll be back here next week with a brand new interview episode for you that I think you're going to love. I'm Melitta Campbell, your business coach and value whisperer, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye.